Nice to have you with us. Cannabis Talk A to Z with Frankie Boyer. I call this show an educational odyssey. And I call it an educational odyssey because, quite honestly, this is what we do on this program. If you're looking for a conversation about passing a joint around and getting high, this is not the show for you. But if you want more information, if you're wondering how cannabis, all forms of cannabis, can possibly help you physically, mentally, spiritually, yes, all of those forms, how our endocannabinoid system is in desperate need of something that this plant has. And it's such a fascinating conversation that we have each and every week, talking to business leaders, talking to practitioners. And we also have the good fortune of welcoming back one of our favorites, because this is a man that has truly been a pioneer in brain health, And the question becomes, why would a neurosurgeon, a brilliant man that is looking at the brain, think that we may be depleting the oil that the CBD may hold for us? And it's a fascinating conversation. And Dr. Lewis, we welcome you to the program and thank you for the service that you have done for our country and the work that you have done for so many years on our behalf. One of the leading pioneers in concussion research as well, Dr. Lewis. Welcome.
Thanks, Frankie. I will have to correct you. I'm not a neurosurgeon, actually. I came at this from a very different angle, but I appreciate the compliment.
Oh, okay. Tell me why, though, you love CBD oil, why you love the hemp oil.
Well, I'm not that old, but when I went to medical school, there was I don't even think there was even anything in the literature about the endocannabinoid system that you mentioned. And so this is all fairly new. And if we're going to be good clinicians, good doctors, good physicians, and help people, it's intuitive to me that we need to continue to learn. And so as I learned about this newly described ancient system that our body has, it just clicked. It just made sense that as a typical American, we're out of balance, and in many different ways, whether that's omega-6 to omega-3s, or whether it's our endocannabinoid system. But as we learn more about it, it controls everything, basically how we think, how we feel, how we react. And so it just is this master receptor system throughout our brain and throughout our body that controls our levels of anxiety, our levels of stress, our immune response to all that. It's just an amazing system that I think everybody needs to learn about.
We have really been not understanding the brain to begin with. And so, for those of you just joining us, Dr. Michael Lewis is with us. He's an expert on brain health. And, you do so much with the brain. I just assumed you were, for whatever reason, I had that in my own brain. But you have been doing brain research for a lot of years.
I started about now almost 11 years ago when I was active duty in the Army. So it has been a while.
You're a graduate of West Point. I mean, we're talking about credentials that are outstanding on a good day. You have talked so much about the need for omega-3s in our body, and especially for athletes and concussions. So the research that you're getting, the information that you're learning in the past decade about hemp and hemp oil, I personally think it could change the NFL in many ways as well, with all the concussions and the problems that they're having with brain health. I'm just curious what your thoughts are.
Well, I'm a huge fan of sports and team sports, and I played all kinds of team sports growing up. I allow my kids to play, including football and rugby, and I just think that we can do it safer. Everybody's looking at how do we change the rules, how do we change the equipment, how do we make the equipment safer. You don't wear a helmet in soccer, so what are you going to do there? Are we going to be running around with pillows on our heads trying to play games? And so I look at it from how do we make the game safer from the inside out? How do we improve the resilience of the brain to withstand an injury and play the game safer, whether it's football or whether it's soccer or lacrosse or ice hockey? And I think the lessons and the experiences that we get from team sports are far outweigh the risks, but that doesn't mean that we ever stop trying to make the game safer.
I think for me that this is really important for everyone to understand, that we're talking about using hemp oil as we would vitamin C, as we would a fish oil. And with all the stress that we are under in our lives, and I mean, we're talking about stressful lives, constant movement, constant travel, the uncertainty of the world that we live in. You go on an airplane, and you think, there's a chance something might happen, never thinking someone may, possibly get out of a window. There are a lot of things that happen to people, and we as a society react, and we may not be aware of the reactions immediately, but we react. And so this is a new concept of using an oil derived from the hemp part of the plant to fill up the brain a little bit.
Well, it's really about balance, and I think all you have to do is turn on the TV or the radio and hear 10 seconds of the news to realize, as a society, I think we're a little out of balance in so many different ways, and I always go back to what's the real basis of being in balance. And honestly, it gets back to the simple things that we were supposed to learn long ago. It is essentially, how do we eat and diet and exercise, literally. If we improved our diets and we exercised on a regular basis and had good sleep hygiene, we could change the world. But unfortunately, that's not the case. And in some cases, it's not all our fault. We do make bad choices as people and what we eat a lot of times. But, the food supply, the entire food chain is kind of working against us in that it's very pro-inflammatory. And so even if you try to eat as healthy as possible, it's not always completely possible to change that.
I just love
a way to interact with things.
Yeah,
so
and I just love that you're. I'm sorry. I just love that you're a retired colonel from the U.S. Army talking about this. He's an MD. He's an MPH. He's an MBA. He's FACP and FACN. I mean, the list goes on of the credentials of this extraordinary man. And we're talking about something so simple as oiling up our brains, keeping our brains sharp, keeping our brains properly oiled. And it can also help with depression and anxiety. And when we come back from break, Dr. Lewis, let's talk about this, okay? Let's talk about anxiety and depression, because so much of it is rampant in our world today, as we've been talking about. Dr. Michael Lewis is with us today. I'm Frankie Boyer. This is Cannabis Talk A to Z. I call it an educational odyssey because that's what we're doing. We're trying to really become educated about this plant. So stay tuned. We'll be back in just a moment. Welcome back. This is Frankie Boyer. And I love doing this show, Cannabis Talk A to Z, and I call it an educational journey because, we become educated. Without knowledge, without the information, we are not going to make the right choices. We're not going to make appropriate choices in life. We all know that. Without understanding, the situation, we make bad choices. And so it's through education. It's through the educational process that we all open our minds up and understand that there is a plant that's thousands of years old that may hold the key for helping someone with migraines, to helping someone with Tourette's, to helping epilepsy for children. The list goes on and on and on. And what about the everyday person? Well, that's why we're talking to Dr. Michael Lewis. Dr. Michael Lewis, so brilliant in all of the things that he has done, a retired colonel in the Army. Thank you for your service. West Point graduate, Tulane University School of Medicine. He completed his postgraduate training at Walter Reed Army Medical Center. John Hopkins. I mean, it just so accomplished, and isn't it wonderful that we have the omega-3s for helping our brains, for treating brain injury, as you've been talking about for years and years, and you train, and when you treated a brain injured teenager, Bobby, and you helped him. Now, one step further, we're putting CBD oil in. And tell us the story about Bobby and what happened after he started taking the CBD oil. And by the way, the CBD oil that you love and I love is the CV Sciences product, which is CV Sciences Gold product. But go ahead and share with us the story of Bobby, please, Dr. Lewis.
Well, right. So Plus CBD oil is their CV Sciences main product.
Plus, I always get the plus wrong. Yeah, Plus CBD. Yeah.
So the really quick story of Bobby is in March of 2010, he was in a really bad car accident, and the parents were told there's no chance that he's going to survive the weekend, let alone have any kind of meaningful recovery. He'll probably never come out of a coma. Just pull the plug. Let's end it now. And the parents had reached out.
Imagine having
that.
Yeah, imagine that. Yeah.
And that probably happens dozens of times a day around the country. And but the parents didn't want to give up on their only son, and they ended up being connected to me. And I talked the neurosurgeon into using pretty substantial doses of omega-3s to pour down his feeding tube. And the real short of the story is 3 months later, he went to his high school graduation. Fast forward 5 years later, and I get to learn more and more about CBD oil, and I convinced Bobby and his parents to give it a try. And about 2 weeks later, he gives me a phone call and says he's thrown away his antidepressants and his anti-anxiety medicines, all the pharmaceuticals that he was on for that, and that his depression's gone, his anxiety is dissipated. And then about a month later, I get an email from him and he's telling me he moved out of his parents' house. He's got a full-time job. He got an apartment with a friend, and he's doing stand-up comedy in Los Angeles. So,
are you kidding me?
No, and that was a month after starting the CBD oil.
Wow.
It was really, I mean, honestly, I wish I had the science behind it, and someday we will. But so anecdotally, I just have patient after patient after patient comes back to me to say that fish oil has been really good, but that little CBD pill that you have me taking has been life-changing.
Can you just explain the difference between that little CBD pill? Because people are confused. It's hemp, but you can't get high from it. So how does that work?
Well, it is absolutely the most confusing part of this whole segment of this nutritional supplement industry. And CBD is the new kid on the block, even though it's been around for 4,000 or 5,000 years or longer, and used medicinally for that long. But it's new because it got suppressed, it got thrown under the bus with marijuana back in the 1930s and 40s, and it's just kind of finding its way back into the light of day, partly because of the whole marijuana movement. But when we talk about hemp doesn't have only maybe trace amounts of THC, the thing that gets you high when you smoke marijuana. So when we're talking about the hemp plant, it grows like bamboo. It's a crop. All the, George Washington, Thomas Jefferson were hemp farmers. Every farmer pretty much back in the 200 years ago grew hemp. And so the whole plant is used. The stalk, the flowers, the leaves, everything above the ground is used to extract this CBD oil that's very rich in CBD, rich in omega-3s, rich in vitamin E, rich in all these incredible things, but it's not rich in THC. So you could eat or smoke or do whatever you want with this hemp plant, and it's not going to make you high because it doesn't have the THC at any levels enough to actually be psychoactive.
And I love that part of the story because so parents can safely give it to kids. How do you use the Plus CBD oil?
Well, I think when CB Sciences came out with their gold soft gel, 15 milligrams of CBD in a soft gel, it's about the size. It's small. It's the size of a vitamin D capsule. When they came out with that about 2 years ago, I guess it was, I think that was a game changer because most CBD products on the market, almost, I'd say 99% of them out there are a spray, a liquid, a dropper, a paste, or some other thing that's really hard. It's got a very earthy flavor to it, and it's really hard to mask that flavor. And it could be messy and so on because it's an oil. And for them to come out with this soft gel, to me, was a game changer because I could get people take it first thing in the morning because you want to start your day off right without the anxiety. And what I find is a lot of people, 80% of everybody that I deal with does really well if they take it first thing in the morning and at bedtime to help calm their brain down.
And for more information,
and then adjust from there.
What's the website for more information on the product, please?
Well, it's pluscbdoil.com, pluscbdoil.com, pluscbdoil.com.
Dr. Michael Lewis, always wonderful information, always a pleasure. Thank you so much, sir. And we'll be back.
We never have enough time, so we'll have to do it again.
No, we never do. Thank goodness. And we'll be right back. I'm Frankie Boyer. Cannabis Talk A to Z. Welcome back. It is Frankie Boyer. Continuing our conversation today on Cannabis Talk A to Z, an educational odyssey. And joining us now is Elizabeth Gagnon, who is a partner in Tetra Public Affairs. And they are expert marketing and have been working on this in this green field. And it is and Liz's background is extensive in cannabis and hemp and really gives her a unique perspective. And she is with us today, and it's such a pleasure. Welcome to the program, Liz.
Thanks. I'm happy to be here.
So let's talk about, this has been a very interesting time. We are now seeing that there is a new bill that is really changing. We were just talking, by the way, to Dr. Michael Lewis about CBD, hemp, being used for anxiety, depression, for so many things. And we're now understanding that this is very real. This is not going away. This is not a fad. This is not passing a joint around. This is a product that can change the economy of the world.
Absolutely. And it's not just the health benefits that bring the validity to this plant. There's so much more. And with the Senate Majority Leader, Mitch McConnell, as you mentioned, has filed recently the Hemp Farming Act of 2018. And it is a breakthrough piece of legislation. With it comes legitimization. It not only tells us, it removes hemp from the list of controlled substances, which by itself is just absolutely amazing that we've gone from 1937 until today with a non-psychoactive plant on this list. But it moves us to a new era of farming and agriculture and a new era of economic development. So you're absolutely right, and I'm sorry I missed the first section because I always get excited when I hear experts talk about the health benefits of hemp-derived CBD because there are so many.
Yes. Let me ask you, as someone who's been in this industry, starting to educate people, where do we go from here? Let's talk about the fact that this product, this hemp, we've talked about the health benefits, we've talked about the farming on this show, but I would love for you to share with us a little bit about the industrial uses and what's out there that's still not even talked about.
Oh, you're absolutely right. There is an entire untouched branch and use of this plant. So we kind of split it up when we talk about the use of hemp, and we've talked about the seed use because you go straight into hemp oil and seed cake, and that's where the nutrition and cosmetics can come from. And then we utilize the flower for nutraceuticals and pharmaceuticals and cosmetics. And the plant itself has so many agricultural benefits for farmers, but that fourth use is basically untouched. And from a business perspective, it has a wealth of potential. The whole stalk on the hemp plant offers us three basic parts: the bast fiber, the whole stalk, and the hurd. Those three parts of the plant each have benefits that can open up business opportunities. The hurd is what we use for building materials and paper and industrial products. The whole stalk we use for paper products, but that's where we in the industry see the biggest potential because that whole stalk can be used for energy and environmental products. And we've seen biofuel possibilities. We've seen plastic substitutions as possibilities where hemp can be used to substitute where plastics are currently used. And also using that bast fiber for consumer textiles, that's fabrics and industrial textiles. Some of the really interesting points that I think and growth developments in the industry that are probably the most economically, I would say, exciting would be in those advanced manufacturing parts. We've seen houses that are being used in full construction with over 60% hemp base. So they're getting so much more benefit out of this plant, and we're getting to the point where the CBD is growing exponentially. And I think, and we believe that textiles is the next step, that we will see logarithmically, we will see a growth in the actual fiber use of this plant. It's coming. Frankie, it's coming.
Yeah, it sounds very exciting, and I know that you're very excited about it, Liz. Tell us also about the Hemp for Victory, because this is also going to it's going to be very, very big and very exciting.
It is. I'm super excited to talk about the Hemp for Victory campaign. The current one, if you remember back in the 40s, there was a movie called The Hemp for Victory that was released. And this is the anniversary. And we've developed a national PR campaign that is partially funded by some corporate sponsors that are hemp brands, of course. But the exciting part is it's also funded by grassroots, where people can adopt a hemp plant in their individual states where hemp is grown, and that money will go towards lobbying on a state and federal level to really release the federal barriers from this plant and allow it to live up to its full potential in every state.
I think that this is very, very powerful stuff, and Janice Hall is going to come on in a little while and talk more about it, and I just love that this is happening. I love that there's a movement that is starting to happen and come together. And as someone who has been in this industry, Liz, tell me a little bit about what your thoughts are. Where are we going? If you had your magic wand, if you had your ways about you, what would you see in 5 years? What would the picture look like in 5 years in this industry?
5 years in this industry, the average American would know the difference between hemp and marijuana. That would be my dream. I would love to see so much of an education campaign, and Hemp for Victory will help with that. I would love to see the general education level rise to the point where we don't have to explain anymore that hemp is non-psychoactive, that you don't need to fear this plant because of your kids, that there are so many benefits that you and I don't need to educate anymore, that everyone already knows in 5 years. And they're using their pocketbooks to show that they support this plant and the farmers that grow it and the processors that make this happen and put it on the market. That's what I dream. That's what I look forward to. In 5 years, we will see that. We will see where people are spending their money and they are talking with their pocketbooks and buying hemp products every day. That's what I'm looking forward to, Frankie.
You know, Liz, I have to tell you, I go back a lot of years doing my health show, and one of the stories goes back to my dear friend Lynn Gordon from French Meadow Bakeries, and when she put out her functional hemp bread, and what she and Dr. Broner and some of the other pioneers in the early days, it was so big to be able to sell a bread that was a functional bread, let alone a hemp seed bread filled with omega-3s. And she began the educational process of educating the world about this amazing seed.
Yep. From
this plant. And so I know, and she insisted that everyone in her store, in her company, wear hemp t-shirts, and that we all understood the importance of hemp. So I'm so thrilled that you're on today talking about this. Give us the website for the agency and the work that you guys are doing, please.
Of course, tetrapublicaffairs.com, and you're welcome to reach out to either me or my partner, Samantha Walsh. We'll be happy to answer anyone's questions in regards to hemp, or if you're interested to get involved in the industry somehow, some way, if you'd like to invest, we'll be happy to direct you and get you to the right place.
Awesome. We got to run.
Frankie,
thank you so much, Liz. It was a pleasure.
Thank you so much for having us.
I'm Frankie Boyer. This is Cannabis Talk A to Z, an educational odyssey. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Welcome back. This is Frankie Boyer. Cannabis Talk A to Z, an educational odyssey. Joining us now is Janice Hall, co-founding director with Michael Bowman of Hemp for Victory. We just mentioned it very quickly with our last guest. She's also president of Natural Network International since 1991, a business development, marketing, and trends forecasting company specializing in natural health, organic, environmental, and sustainable policy issues and products. And it is such a pleasure. Hemp for Victory 2018, a national campaign. And Janice Hall, welcome to the program. Welcome back as always. Tell us about this launching of Hemp for Victory.
Sure. Well, as you know, and we've talked about on the show, and Liz mentioned before, this is the 75th anniversary of the U.S. government's Hemp for Victory campaign during the war, when Japan cut our supply lines off to the Philippines. And it was sort of a Marshall Plan to get hemp going in the U.S. for parachutes, ropes, and many other things that are used for the war. And for that started out with the government actually giving seeds to the 4-H clubs in Kentucky. They propagated the seeds in the following year. I think about 20,000 farmers planted them. There were 43,000 acres or something like that. And they developed the War Hemp Corporation, War Hemp Industries Corporation, to produce 40 some odd, a bunch of manufacturing plants. Anyway, so after the war, it fizzled out due to cotton and due to DuPont and chemicals and due to the oil industry. And now the U.S. hemp industry, as of 2016, it's growing organically, whether it's been illegal or not in states. And there are all but 15 states at this point who have hemp products legal. $688 million retail sales for 2016 and growing to $1.8 billion projected in 2020. And it's led by food and body care and CBD products. And we remain the only G7 nation to prohibit hemp culture, but we're the world's largest consumer. So as everyone's talking about Mitch McConnell's bill, he was really smart to embrace the hemp industry. It was a very savvy political move. Some people, this is the inside scoop, believe he's going to retire. And Kentucky Representative James Comer, who was one of the co-sponsors of the House bill the past couple of years, he was the only Republican to win statewide in 2011 during another, anyway, he just, they think that he's going to be the one to take over for Mitch McConnell. So this is a political move for him and his party as well. And so that's a little background story on what's going on now. And as Liz just mentioned, there are so many products: food, fiber, fuel, construction materials, paper, hempcrete, manufacturing plants, biofuels for transport, and biodegradable hemp plastics. Awesome, you know. And so what's happening with the Hemp for Victory campaign is, as Liz mentioned, this is an educational effort because most people don't know the difference between marijuana and hemp. And thanks to you, Frankie, many more of them do because of your show that you have pioneered for over a year now.
Yes.
To help people understand. And so kudos to you as a woman pioneer for the hemp industry. So we want to let people know how many products can be made by hemp. This is an economy, so we're calling it the hemp economy. And as well as that, the plant is one of the most important carbon sequestration plants. It's a carbon store, and it can actually pull the legacy carbon from the air. And CO2 is released when it's when it's composted or burnt. And
it's so interesting. It's so interesting because we're talking about something that is so relevant to the planet, and for people to understand the bigger picture. And so I'm loving that you're talking about this. This is such an important
plant. It's the smartest plant on the planet. And the great thing is that through replanting it, you can reabsorb the CO2 in the atmosphere annually. In the case of straw or hemp, or even a decade or so in the case of timber, rather than the 300 million years it takes to recycle coal or oil. So the point of this campaign is really to move forward and to educate key influencers. We want to involve strategic thought leaders and change agents, and the main people who have pioneered this movement. We're bringing them under one umbrella so we can tell their stories and we can raise the bar and raise them up. We're working on one-on-one engagement, and we've got social media, print media. We'll have concert tours. The New Belgium Brewery is a partner. The Willie Nelson family is a partner. New Belgium Brewery does their Tour de Fat every year, which is they're famous for their award-winning Fat Tire beer. And this year, their 30 concert tour. And in fact, there will be one in Boston, Frankie, where you are.
Oh, how fun.
They will be supporting the Hemp for Victory campaign throughout the entire year. So it's very exciting. We now have a website, sort of. It's in the construction stages, but you can peek at it. And would you like the address?
Yes, please. Do give it. Okay.
It is H4V, standing for Hemp for Victory, but it's H4V 75.com.
Janice, this is a movement that is so passionate for you, and it really resonates in your whole being. And you have been a true pioneer in the natural products industry. Janice, it's a long story, but Janice actually helped me break into the natural products industry a lot of years ago, many years ago. And we're out of time. We'll have you back again, but I'm so thrilled.
Can I just say that we need to put farmers back to work growing hemp? It's a cash crop on the rise. We need
Absolutely.
to put the family farmer back to work.
Thank you so much for all that you're doing on our behalf, and thank all of you. This has been another edition of Cannabis Talk A to Z, an educational odyssey, and we appreciate your listening. As always, make it a great day, and smile.
Smile, though your heart is aching. Smile.